All right, we're back on Catfish on Ice. It's episode 270 with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Welcome in. It's NHL Draft week. It's been very quiet, obviously, for a team like the Predators because they've been out of it since months ago.
Yeah.
But we just saw a new Stanley Cup champion crown. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers.
Yep,
I'm
again.
calling them the new bullies on the block, and they wear that reputation proudly. They do. Did you see that? Did you see that?
Yeah. So
Sam Bennett out there.
So many F-bombs from Sam Bennett in that celebration. So many F-bombs.
Yeah, I mean, if you like F-bombs, then – but, yeah, that team right there, they're the new bullies on the block. Like I was like a 90s NBA fan, so, like, they remind me of the Bad Boy Pistons. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good comparison. Like, they play that way. They play a rough style. They're not going to make any apologies for how they play, how they are. They welcome the haters, but they are back-to-back champs, something that is just quite frankly not easy to do. Even winning one Stanley Cup, just ask the Nashville Predators fan that. It's hard to do. So congratulations to them, whether you like them or not, because they are a complete team. I do want to give myself a little bump because I've gotten a lot of stuff wrong on this podcast lately. I called Panthers in 6, so I'll at least take that. But
I had Oilers in 7 that did not materialize.
It's okay. Hey, man, me and you both went into that series before it started on this podcast saying this is completely unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? But either way, it was a fun series. We are going to talk about that a little bit later. But we really want to focus on the Nashville Predators tonight, not just because we're a Preds podcast, but also because there's a lot to talk about. We've had a long gap since our last episode. But, hey, it's quality over quantity tonight, and we have a lot to get into. The Preds are sending mixed signals out there, as they always do. We never know what Barry Trotz is thinking. Right. We really don't. He is definitely a very – he doesn't like – he's a great speaker, and he knows how to talk to the media. When he does talk to the media, he lays things out there very nicely. But you just never know what he's thinking. He likes to talk in a very roundabout way, I feel like.
Yeah.
He likes to leave all avenues open, kind of like a politician.
Yeah.
Like he's very good at the political speak. And so for me, like he gave media comments today. We'll share some of them on the screen in this episode for our YouTube viewers. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We're trying to grow this YouTube channel little by little. Every subscriber, we really appreciate it so much. But don't only hit subscribe. Also comment and say hi, and we'll say hi back, and we'll feature your comment here on the live stream. And if you watch later when we're not live, follow us on @CatfishIce on X or on Facebook if you have one of those, and give us a comment there. We'd love to hear from you. We love hearing from all the other fellow Predators fans out there and fellow hockey fans, even if you're not a Preds fan and you're just stumbled across this podcast. We love talking hockey with all different fans. So we appreciate you for stopping by. But what we got to get into tonight, me and Max have to talk about the NHL Draft. First round is 3 days away. It could be one of the most consequential drafts that the Predators have ever had. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that, Max.
No.
Because if you look at where this franchise is at right now, couldn't get closer to rock bottom. They've never really been this far down because even in their early days, they had built-in excuses because they were such a young expansion team. Nobody really had high expectations for those teams. So whatever they did was really just like a pat on the back. Good job. You did what you did. But to do what they did last offseason with a new GM and Barry Trotz, everyone, I'm calling some of you out who have already turned on Barry Trotz. I'm not saying you don't have a right to turn on Barry Trotz at this point, but you all were calling Barry Trotz the savior of this franchise. And how quickly the tides turned. Now, he's brought that on himself. I'll give you that. He's made some very perplexing moves, to say the least. But what I'm saying is this is a very consequential draft because they've got 3 first-round picks. They've built all this draft capital over the last couple of years. So that's one thing that you got to give the front office credit for is they have done a really good job of that, building that draft capital. How are they going to use it?
Yeah.
Max, I mean, before we really get into it, because I'm trying to set the table for the episode, but how are they going to use those picks? And obviously, at number 5 overall, there's so much fluidity to this draft class right now. I mean, it's setting up to be a very fun, entertaining draft for the draft geeks like I am, because there is no consensus here. There really isn't.
Right.
Matthew Schaefer is really the only consensus right now to go top 2. Outside of that, even Michael Misa is – everyone thought he was going top 2, but now you got Anton Frondell jumping in here, the Swede, who has already played against professionals over in Sweden for a while now, has that big physical body that's going to transition. I've been calling – I don't think he's going to fall to the Preds. That's what I'm worried about. But I've been calling for Anton Frondell to be my dream realistic draft pick by the Predators. And now I'm thinking, and I was saying that when the mock drafts had Anton Frondell back outside the top 5. But his draft stock has just skyrocketed over the last month. And so now my original realistic dream pick by the Predators, suddenly I feel like, well, that was a good dream pick by myself, but now I'm thinking he's not going to even be on the board now.
Right. Doesn't seem like it.
If he's on at number 5, I'm going to be doing, well, I don't even know if I physically can do cartwheels at this point. I think I'd probably break something.
I couldn't do cartwheels either.
The point is, I'll be very happy if they get Frondell, but I'm starting to think he's going to, teams really love his physicality. His overall makeup is going to translate to the NHL very, very well. That's what all the scouts say. He's a prototypical two-way player that will fit into the Andrew Brunette system. Not immediately. I'm not saying he's immediately going to play in the NHL. What I'm saying is, he is that two-way player that a lot of NHL front offices love, and that's why his stock is growing. It still means Michael Misa is going to be off the board before the Predators. He'll go in the top 4. Most likely, there's also trade possibilities that will shake everything up. There might be a team that wants to trade up to get Frondell or get, like I've heard that the Blackhawks might be willing to move out. Like there's a lot of uncertainty here, and that makes for great. So we're going to get into that much deeper. More in-house stuff, Max, to get into here. Let's talk about Erik Haula and try to make sense of that.
Yeah.
I mean, Max, me and you have not talked about the Erik Haula trade at all. I don't have any idea what your thoughts are on this. And so it's fun to have that discussion with you. It threw me for a loop when I came across it, for sure. Like the player, I respect his career. It's a weird fit. I don't know. I mean, they throw a little, they take a little bit of a cap hit to take him, not a ton. They still have $14 million in cap space approximately, but it's kind of weird. Trotz comes out and says, oh, this guy is going to help us win. He's going to help the younger players. That was basically Trotz's argument for taking on Erik Haula, the reunion here.
Did he talk about it in the press conference today?
Or no. I saw that was shared like right after they made the trade.
Okay. I didn't see that.
It circulated through the social media waves that Trotz basically said he's going to come in and help the younger guys play and help us compete, is what he said. Again, very politically correct there. But, a weird move. We'll talk about it. Luke Evangelista is one of the very few free agents to even talk about in terms of Predators free agents. RF, restricted free agents. So, offer sheets and all that come into play and qualifying offers and all that. So, almost certainly he will stay here, but it's still kind of odd, Max, that he doesn't have a deal yet. Would you agree with that, or do you think it's much ado about nothing? And
I mean, it's certainly not uncommon for players to, like with RFAs, to go unsigned into like July or August. Right now, based on what we're seeing, we're lack there. We haven't seen anything. So there's no reason for us. Freak out at this point. I will say, it's certainly, you never want it to happen, and it's probably not going to happen, but it's all fun and games until he gets offer sheeted by some other team who wants to take a chance on him. So that's where you got to be proactive because, offer sheets are becoming more and more commonplace nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. And also, since we do fully expect him to be back with the Predators, even though he doesn't have a new contract yet, what is his role going to be next season when he does come back with his team, if and when he does, but we expect him to? Because I got to tell you, Max, as long as he does get a new contract with the Predators and he stays here, he is one of my biggest X factor players when it next year when it comes to, is this team about to go through a long, painful abyss of mediocrity and lottery status, or is a player like a Luke Evangelista about to level up? Because quite frankly, the Predators have not had a lot of their younger players level up with this organization. They either get sent away before they can hit that status, or they just don't work out. I mean, this franchise desperately needs a homegrown drafted player to level up and become an impact player for this organization. And I really want to think that Luke Evangelista can be that guy. I liked what he did towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
Through Yeah, go ahead.
I really wrote an article like 1 week saying he's not trending in the right direction, but my ultimate message was you gotta keep him and you got to make it work with him because you screwed up with so many other guys. You got to make it work with him, even though it was looking bad. And then he's been in the top six and does really well. So yeah. So I mean, he had a really strong.
We'll talk about his role with this team, and then we'll finish off talking about the Panthers and giving them their due that they deserve as the bullies on the block, and who could they three-peat? Are they here to stay, or are they about to? Had they enjoyed their good run?
I think they're here to stay.
Ooh. So that's how we'll finish out this episode. But let's get into it with NHL Draft talk here with the opening face-off here. NHL Draft 2025 coming up on Friday with round 1. Preds have 9 picks overall, 3 in the first round, 2 in the second round. 23rd and 26th pick is also on the board for the Predators. So they've built that draft capital over the years. So you got to give them that, but now they have to use it. Let's try to mock the 5th pick right now, Max. And I'm going to give you the floor first. First, I want you to tell me who is your top player that you want, whether or not you think they're going to be there or not. And then give me your prediction of who you think is actually going to be on the board maybe and who you think ends up being taken. So first, your biggest desire player.
I mean, in a perfect world, you probably get one of Misa or Frondell, which is probably not going to happen.
Misa could fall. No, Misa's not falling to 5. Frondell, I feel like there's some smoke screening going on. That's me.
That would probably be the most ideal option right there. I will say, and again, I think I've said before in this podcast, unfortunately, I've never been like a big NHL draft guy. And I think a lot of that's due because these guys are way in other leagues and it may really make an impact the first year. But either way, one thing I was doing before this episode to prep, because I actually did want to come in with some information, is I did a comparison for James Higgins versus Porter Martone. That's who I anticipate the Preds are going to have the options between. They're probably their top 2. And when I look at the two guys, Higgins, it definitely seems like he has a higher upside. He's a center. He has a positional versatility. Great skater, great vision and playmaking, pretty good defensively, although not a great shooter and quite undersized and just had a fairly down year for Boston College. And it seems like he's not the kind of guy who's going to totally shy away from being gritty, but again, he's never going to be like a truly physical dude. So there's that to think about. Porter Martone, he's a winger, so he doesn't quite have that positional versatility, but he's a really strong facilitator, strong shooter, strong on the puck in general, great vision and IQ, and good size and adequate physicality, but not the best speed, although it seems like it got better the past year. And it seems like his hockey sense could be inconsistent. It seems like his IQ is almost like a blessing and a curse. When it's on, but it seems like a lot of times, at least from what I saw from scouting reports, is that he just sometimes doesn't join the play early enough, and it just, or things like that, or isn't physical the right way, and just kind of derails them in some situations. And when I look at it overall, I think Martone is safer in the sense that the stuff for him is probably more correctable. Granted, Higgins, I guess, could put on some pounds and, maybe be a stronger shooter with that. Although, that being said, I think if we were to say neither guy, really improves their weaknesses, Martone's the guy I'm most worried about because, like, the lack of IQ can, or like having it in really wrong situations can really kill you. And ultimately, when at least, I guess what I'm trying to say is when it comes to realistic desires, especially when it comes to Higgins over Martone, I give the slight edge to Higgins because of upside and positional versatility.
Yeah. I mean, let's share what Brooks Bratton had to say regarding what Trotz was saying today. Let's put it on the screen real quick. But yeah, Max, I'm right there. While I pull that up, Max, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, Anton Frondell is my guy that I want. I don't know if it's smoke screening. I don't know what's going on here. It's really comes down to Higgins, Frondell, or Martone. And then you've also, but let's also think about this. You've got 4 picks before the Predators. I don't think the Predators are going to trade out of their pick. I think they want that pick, and they should want that pick. There's a few people out there who are like, the Preds should think about trading back. No, you don't go through a season You don't go through a season we just went through to trade back, unless it is part of a package where you're getting a Marco Rossi or something like that.
That's what I was going to say, and it's kind of relevant now because this guy just got traded. But one of my buddies and I were talking is like maybe in a hypothetical situation where you could have maybe flipped back to number 10 in a Trevor Zegras trade, although he just got traded, so that dream's dead.
Yeah, Philly gets Trevor Zegras though. That looks like Philly did really good in that trade.
Great.
But yeah, so here's the tweet here. Here's from Brooks Bratton talking about what Trotz had to say. Part of his comments today. Preds GM Barry Trotz says he and his staff have been trying to figure out who will be picked before the Preds at number 5 in the NHL draft. Yeah, you, me, and everyone else, Barry. But it's anyone's guess. Regardless, Preds know they're going to get a very good player at 5th overall. And even though, again, that sounds like political speak there, I think Trotz is absolutely right. I mean, this is a draft that you absolutely want to be picking in the top 10 because all the scouts are pretty much in agreement that it is not particularly a deep draft.
No.
Like, there is a lot of uncertainty after you get out of these top 10 players. Quite frankly, when you get out of like the top 5 or 6 players, you got Roger McQueen, which I know, Max, you don't get deep into a lot of these prospects because you got a lot of stuff on your plate as well, including covering the Titans. But I have gone deep into it. I've read a lot of scouting reports. It's geeky for me. I love reading this stuff every year. And Roger McQueen is a weird one because if it wasn't for his uncertain back injuries, which he says that he's fully bounced back from,
a lot of players say that.
He's a top 5 talent. So like that throws another just monkey wrench into what's going to happen. Is there going to be a team who is there going to be a team doctor or a team's medical staff who tells the GM, hey, he's fine. We got to get this guy. So Roger McQueen's an entry one. He's probably going to be top 10, not top 5. If I'm the Predators, McQueen and the Predators have kind of been like a lot of people have said, whatever you do, Preds, do not resist the urge of taking McQueen. And I'm kind of with that sentiment. I don't think the Predators are in a position where they can take a chance on.
Yeah, I'm generally not a fan of taking guys with uncertain injury history.
When you're picking at number 5 and you're in a position like the Predators are.
And I've been burned from former moves by saying, oh, we'll take a chance and it's burned. I've been very sensitized to that.
When you're picking at number 5, and you've been around for 26 years, it's still mind-blowing. It's still so mind-blowing to me every time I see this. I always have to double-check to make sure this is correct. The Predators have been around for 26 years. They've been to 1 conference final. They've been to 1 Stanley Cup final. They've never won a Stanley Cup. And this 5th overall pick is going to be the 3rd highest draft pick they've ever had in their history.
Wow.
That right there is the epitome of being stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
You are stuck in the mucky middle where you've had all these good regular seasons, pat on the back, you make the playoffs, here's your participation trophy. And that's the frustration that fans have right now. And and then the NHL draft lottery just gives you an extra middle finger and puts you at your worst position you could have possibly drawn for. And they put you at number 5. But you know what? I still think the Predators are in a good position right now to get a player that can change their franchise. I'm not trying to be over dramatic. I truly feel that way. You wouldn't want to be after number 5. I think the Predators are the last team, unless you trade up, to really be really certain that they're getting a great player. Obviously, you're never 100% certain. There's been bust that in the NHL's past, there's been bust at the number 1 overall pick in recent memory.
Yeah.
You know, we're all kind of like thrown off because recent number 1 picks have just exploded. Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard. There's been some good ones lately. There's been some stacked draft classes lately. But all you got to do is look at the history of NHL drafts, and it will kind of make you a little nervous if you're a Predators fan right now. There's been a lot of bust in the top 10 in NHL draft history. So if you don't want to be freaked out and paranoid right now, Preds fans, don't go back and look at the history of drafts. And I'm not even saying the Predators drafts. I'm saying in general, it is not exact science when it comes to NHL draft. But this draft class does feel pretty good when it comes to the top end, especially like top 10. So being at number 5, that's why I would not trade back if I'm the Predators, unless you're just getting like a bona fide stud that's going to instantly change your team. And it's part of the bigger plan of trying to get younger and faster. And I just don't see that happening. So I think that Trotz knows he's picking at number 5. And he feels like the tweet right here on the screen from Brooks Bratton. He's saying we're going to get a good player at 5th overall. That's political speak, but still, I agree with him. I do.
And one thing I give Trotz a lot of crap, and I've given a lot of crap over the past few months. One thing he did say today that I really believe, and I actually give him credit for, is he was, and maybe this kind of Captain Obvious kind of talk, but he was basically saying is like,
let's say hi. Hey, real quick, let's say hi to Rich.
What's going on? Time out, Rich.
The old co-host of Catfish on Ice, Rich Hal, on Facebook, says Erik Haula. Hey, first of all, I remember Rich. He loves him some Erik Haula. Erik Haula did well in New Jersey. Evangelista needs to bulk up and shoot more. Go Panthers. Wait a minute. There's a lot to – Rich, I hope you're still watching right now. There's a lot to break down in that comment. First of all, Erik Haula did well in New Jersey. He did for a little bit. He had a down year last year. But he is still a feisty veteran. He's going to fit into what Trotz loves, especially if he's in the bottom 6. I'm not nearly against the Erik Haula trade as some people are. I'm a little confused by it.
I am too.
But it's not necessarily because I don't like Erik Haula so much as a bottom 6 player. It's so much that I just don't know what Trotz's motives are.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So, but then Evangelista needs to bulk up and shoot more.
Agreed.
I have no disagreements with that. Yeah. But then go Panthers. I remember very clearly.
He probably is somewhat a Brad Marchand supporter, and he's on the Panthers because he's a Boston fan.
I remember very clearly that Rich Hal hates the Panthers. He can't stand.
No, he hates the Lightning. He
don't like the Panthers either. I
really?
promise you. He can't stand Matthew Tkachuk.
He hated the Lightning.
He can't stand Matthew Tkachuk and how he chews on his mouthpiece all the time.
Interesting.
But anyway, Rich, it's really loved. I love to hear from you, man. Thanks for commenting on Facebook. We love you, man. We miss you. And so, yeah. So, sorry, I had to do that, Max. But keep going.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I've given Trotz a lot of crap over the past few months, and I kind of did for the Haula move. One thing I will say that he said today that I very much agree with is that, like, he's like, we're not going to try and focus as much on position at number 5 overall because we just want to take the best player. And that's just, especially in like the NHL where these guys, it's a really developmental league. You got to do the best, for your future, not immediate success. And he even cited the example of Jesperi Kotkaniemi over Brady Tkachuk. And I bet Montreal wishes they took Brady Tkachuk with that pick over Kotkaniemi. So yeah, no, I hope, I do believe that Trotz thinks like that. So of all the things that I've criticized Trotz for, I did like to hear that one today.
Yep. So I did ask right before we went on live. I did ask some comments from some listeners on how they feel about a choice between Martone or Higgins, which feels like that could actually very realistically happen. And Alex on X, regular commenter and listener of the show, so we appreciate you, Alex, gave me this response. So my question is, if you have a choice between Porter Martone or James Higgins, who are you taking? I need y'all to play armchair GM for me tonight. And Alex gave a really good response, thoughtful response. I really appreciated his response. Says Higgins would fill the center need we've needed for years, but Martone is gifted and is a superstar-like talent. I'd be happy with either based solely on all of our centers being north of 30 and there not being much in the systems. It's Higgins for me.
Yeah, I think Alex hit the head pretty much on the nail right there.
But it makes for such a really difficult decision because you don't want to get too caught up in position of need in hockey, and you want to take the best player available. But here's why I think that the best player available strategy doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, serve the Predators so well at number 5. When you pick at number 5, you kind of have to draft what you need the most. And you got to take a chance here. And look, James Higgins was the top player of the draft class before this past season started. And it wasn't like he had a bust season. It wasn't like he was garbage. He just had a slightly down year in Boston College. And let me just say, from everything I've read and what I've understood about NCAA hockey, college ranks hockey, is it is still a difficult transition. Yeah. And it can sometimes be more difficult depending on what competition you're going up against in the college ranks. It can be a little bit more difficult than playing in some of these junior leagues, like the Western Hockey League or the Ontario Hockey League. Not all leagues are created equally. That's why I like Frondell so much.
That's why it makes it so hard to judge, like with stats and all that.
But that's why I like Frondell so much, and that's why Frondell's stock is raising so much over a Higgins, is because Frondell played over in Sweden against other professionals. Arguably, the competition he was going up against is way higher than anybody you're playing against in the college ranks, most likely, or in those junior leagues. So yeah, it makes it very difficult, and that's why drafting in the NHL is way less of an exact science than maybe any of the other major sports leagues.
I would say. I mean, I know the MLB is most similar because like the developmental aspect, and because there's also a million freaking rounds.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
But I think it's definitely more of a crapshoot than the NHL and NFL. I mean, the NBA and NFL.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, but picking at number 5, let me give you my mock real quick. I think that in the end, Frondell is going to be off the board. I'll give you my top 4 real quick. I think that Schaefer's going in the top 4, no doubt. Despite the smoke screening, Misa's going in the top 4. The Sharks are an interesting one because everyone thinks that the Sharks are going to take Misa, but now the Sharks are being linked to Frondell. But either way, I think both of them are going. It's a matter of who they go to in the top 4, because if somehow the Sharks pass on Misa at number 2 and take Frondell, then the Blackhawks probably take Misa.
Yeah.
Which makes me sick to my stomach.
I mean, they're getting a damn good player either way.
And hey, look, I hate to break it to everybody, but the Blackhawks, give it another year or two, as long as they keep developing these players, they're going to be back. They are. Maybe not like the dynasty team they once were, but they're going to be back. They're not. You can only keep that franchise in the doghouse for so long. And as Predators fans, we've enjoyed it, but they're going to start building something there as long as they have semi-competent people in their front office. But then number 4, you got the Utah Mammoth. And so when I look at number 4, that's really where it gets complicated on who the Predators are going to take, because I'm holding true that I think that Misa, Frondell, and Schaefer are your locks to be in the top 3. I could be wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. So then once those guys are off the board, then that's where Porter Martone comes into play. And that's where Caleb Denoyer comes into play, who is also a really good center that no one's talking about. Another two-way guy who plays very similar to Frondell. He probably doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but has that competitive edge, plays with an edge to himself, is not afraid to get down into the boards and win puck battles. He's got the prototypical 6'1", 6'2" size. He's not undersized. He's a competitor. He's played on high levels with the Canadian junior team. Dude's been on the big stage. So if my mock draft comes the way I think it is, I think that it's going to be Hagens, Denoyer, or Porter Martone for the Predators to choose between. It's all about who do the Mammoths take out of those 3. The Predators will get the other 2, the choice out of the other 2. Because I think one of those 3 has got to be taken by the Mammoth. So I'm going to say that the Predators take James Hagens.
I would be happy with that.
I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
But if I'm wrong and they take Caleb Denoyer, I won't be mad. And if they take Porter Martone, I also will not be mad. I mean, I would rather them get a center because that's just what they need so badly. And as you get further and deeper into the first round, the likelihood of getting a top 6 center, it doesn't mean you can't do it. There's still centers out there. There's always diamonds in the rough that come out of nowhere. In fact, a lot of the best draft picks the Predators have ever made are outside of the first round. I mean, if you really want to look at Preds draft history, just look at Pecorine, for crying out loud. Just look at Ryan Ellis. Just look at a lot of the guys they drafted outside of the first round. Those are their best draft picks in their history. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I'm just saying, like, there's always diamonds in the rough. But later in the draft, let's say that they take a center or Porter Martone. Either way, they're taking a potential top 6 forward. Once they get to 23rd, this prospect pool has a lot of needs. So once you get to 23rd, you're not thinking NHL instant ready. You're thinking 3 or 4 years down the road that we're going to need these guys. So I definitely think they got to try to find a right defenseman. Everyone likes Blake Fiddler is the very popular draft pick right now. Physical guy, two-way guy, plays with an edge, and he's local. So Blake Fiddler is the popular 23rd or 26th overall pick by the Predators in a lot of mock drafts. I did a mock draft roundup on predlines.com. Looked at like 6 or 7 different mock drafts around the internet, and there's a lot of consensus that the Predators are going to take Blake Fiddler with one of their late first-round picks. And then
I don't know this. Is he Vernon Fiddler's son?
Yeah.
I did. Okay, there you go. I honestly didn't know.
Let's pull up his prospect report real quick. But but to get more onto it, the Predators prospect pool has gotten thin. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little thin. It's gotten a little, and so they need a little bit of everything. So it's pretty nice that you got 9 draft picks in this draft class, and I think they need every single one of them. I'm not saying that they're not going to make some trades, and they should just not. They have to use every single one of them. I'm just saying, like. But let's look at this. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Blake Fiddler. This is on the hockey. This is the draft profile on the Hockey Writers, which is a really good site that you all should use if you're into this draft stuff and you want to read scouting reports. But let's put it on the screen right there. Let me pick the different. Let me pick the. Sorry, guys. Let me pick the right screen. But let's look at Blake Fiddler's scouting report according to the Hockey Writers and read some of it. All right, there it is. So I'm going to read this along with you, but play with the Edmonton Oil Kings of the Western Hockey League in 2024-25. Born in Nashville, Tennessee, so there you go. 6'4", 209 pounds, right shot defenseman, hard to find. Scouting rankings. NHL Central Scouting has him 24th among North American skaters. Elite Prospects has him 20th. Going through there, Bob McKenzie's a very popular that scouts a lot of the rankings. 21st, very high up there. Dauber Prospects has Blake Fiddler 18th. Right shot defender for the Edmonton Oil Kings in the WHL is the son of former NHL player Vernon Fiddler. Has established himself as one of the strongest defenders in the upcoming draft and has been a rock on the Oil Kings' blue line, helping them get back to the playoffs. Two-way game. Just statistics don't jump off the page, but still solid. And that's what's important when you're looking at these defensemen in your draft class. You can't just look at points. You got to look at how they play, like literally play the game. Because some of these defensemen are not, that's not their role on their respective junior teams is to score points. But more from the Hockey Writers here on their scouting report of Fiddler. Fiddler's size will be a factor that many teams look at when they consider drafting him. 6'4". Dude's a mountain. Dude's a freaking skyscraper. For a player that will be able to skate the way he does is rare and impressive. So he's got the rare combination, according to this scouting report, of being big and fast and skating good. So he's not just a traffic cone. So that
gives me Colton Parayko vibes.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Mobility, physicality, and defensive IQ are all tools that he possesses. So I'm on full board. I've read a lot of scouting reports on Blake Fiddler. I like Cameron Reed as well, actually, at 23rd. I just don't think he's going to be available at 23rd for the Predators, but he's another defenseman I would love if he, for some reason, fell to 23rd, because Cameron Reed has a little bit more offensive upside than Blake Fiddler and whatnot. But the more realistic choice is if Blake Fiddler is on the board, I would be very happy with that pick.
Yeah,
and I'll be very happy with the mock drafts being correct on that one. If
Blake I'll honestly be happy from the standpoint of, good Lord, we need right shot defensemen so badly.
Yeah,
we need them so.
They're so hard to find.
Them like a horse needs water to drink in the desert.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable how weak that position group is.
Yeah. And so that's a good one there. And then, of course, another really popular mock draft pick that the Predators are getting is the top goalie prospect in this year's draft. And that is the luxury you get when you have 3 first-round picks, is that you can address each position you need the most. Because you got 3 first-round picks. Most teams don't have that. So they're
honestly,
a lot of mock drafts think.
Sorry, we were kind of cutting out there, but
go ahead.
Quite honestly, I don't think it will happen. But I would like to see Trotz trade one of these first rounders by Friday. Although at this point, the clock is really ticking.
If he traded one, but let me ask you. Let me first give you this pick here. So Joshua Ravensbergen, the top, widely regarded as the top goalie prospect of this draft class. And let's just make sure everyone understands that goalies typically don't go high in NHL drafts. I mean, Yaroslav Askarov went 11th overall to the Predators, but generally speaking, goalies do not go super high. And you normally see goalies start dropping off the draft board in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round if they're really good. Because first of all, goalies take a long time to develop. It's usually 4, 5, 6 years down the road before you even see that goalie get on the NHL level. And even if they do get on the NHL level, they're usually a backup. The only way some of these goalies get in sooner is if your goalie room is a freaking mess. And so with UC Saros starting his 8-year contract this year, you would think the Predators don't need a goalie. But when you have 3 first-round picks, you have a little bit more of a luxury to maybe take a chance on that extra pick. This is why I think, Max, that maybe it's not smart to trade this pick. Is you can get a steal of a pick that we won't actually see the rewards of for years and years to come, that's why fans don't get excited about it, because they're like, oh, I'm not going to even see this guy for another 5 or 6 years. Why should I get excited about this? But Joshua Ravensburger is considered the best goalie prospect in this draft class. Doesn't mean he will turn out to be that, but that's just what they say. I love it because, quite frankly, the Predators do not have any backup plan to UC Saros right now. I'm sorry, but I didn't like Justus Onanen that much. I liked it at first, the trade, but the dude is way too inconsistent. He's streaky. You think UC Saros is streaky? I think Justus Onanen is way too streaky. So I don't think Justus Onanen is going to be around for very much longer.
I don't see how we have a clear evaluation of the guy, because the Preds, I mean, let's not lie to ourselves. The Preds were icing like an AHL caliber defense as the season went on. I mean, it's hard to totally say.
No, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is I just don't think that they're going to invest in Justus Onanen. He'll be around this year.
He hasn't shown us he should at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's only signed for 1 more year anyway. He'll get some time this year, and unless he just completely shows out, kind of like what Kevin Lankinen did. But even if that happens, then he becomes trade bait. Right. You know, it's like the Preds are stuck in this weird situation where UC Saros is their guy. I mean, they're invested in him for 8 years. He's their franchise goalie. So even if you have a backup who just completely shows out and plays great, I mean, just look at what happened with Kevin Lankinen. So I'm just thinking, like, the Predators are in a situation where they're probably going to rotate out Justus Onanen, and then eventually maybe they'll go sign another random backup goalie. But they're going to try to ride to UC Saros again. They're going to hope that he just has a bounce back year with a much better team in front of him, let's hope. But, you know, it was a down year either way. And you got to start thinking, like, let's try to get the best goalie prospect in this draft class. And let's think super long term down the road. Like, we'll have this guy cook in the minors for a few years. And we get like 2 or 3 years into the UC Saros deal and we're not happy with it, and this guy's just tearing it up, then that gives us an off-ramp. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, at this point, you know, certainly, I mean, we're gonna have to see. Hopefully, like you said, Saros is a bounce back year, and certainly the jury is still out on the best on Onanen. And like I said, I mean, I personally, you know, want to see, you know, him get a better opportunity. But like you said, he hasn't shown that they should invest in the long term, and that he has to show it.
Yeah, and let's look at Tankathon, and let's just look at their mock draft real quick before we wrap up this segment, and just their first round mock draft. And so there it is right there. And zoom in a little bit. And let's see what they're saying. So Tankathon is saying James Hagens at number 5. Caleb Denoyer. So they got Porter Martone falling all the way to 7. Brady Martin, he's another one that's really like a kind of a sneaky X factor. You see Brady Martin all over the place. You see him at 12. You see him at 10. You see him as high as 6. That's another player that mock drafts are not in agreement on. But, yeah, that just goes to show you. But, yeah, the Islanders, the fact that they jumped all the way up to number 1 in the NHL lottery, and now they can get Matthew Schaefer, who is by far seems like and don't let it fool you when you see that Matthew Schaefer only had 22 points. The guy was injured, but he is still all the tools and traits. Everyone says that Matthew Schaefer is the safest draft pick in this draft class by
And
far.
he's known as an offensive defenseman, really. Isn't he more known as like a stay-at-home guy?
He's a two-way guy, but he's got a little bit of everything. But I mean, every scout out there would have to be completely wrong, and they would have to eat crow if Matthew Schaefer ends up being a bust, because they're all in agreement. I haven't read one article that puts Matthew Schaefer outside of the top two. Right. But Misa is starting to like move around. Frondell has certainly jumped up. This is just one mock draft, but I'm just saying like James Hagen's at number 5 right there. We'll all be happy with that. Look at Misa with 134 points in the OHL this past year. It's just crazy.
That's nuts.
But Porter Martone, 98 points as a winger in 57 games, also in the Ontario Hockey League. You got to remember, guys, not taking anything away from these guys, but you see inflated stats like that all the time in those leagues. The talent gap in that league is very, very wide. So when you have these generationally talented guys, which they are, like Misa and Martone, that's why you see those video game-like numbers. And that's why you look at an Anton Frondell, 25 points in 29 games. The dude played in a professional Swedish league. So you just have to take that into account. So just for people who don't really get into all this stuff and they see that and they get confused, that's why. It doesn't mean that the other guys who played in the OHL and in these junior leagues, it doesn't take anything away from them. I'm just trying to say, like, the talent you play against does matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's why drafting in the NHL is so incredibly hard. But that's why James Hagen's stock has dropped, because he did play in the NCAA college ranks. And so to see only 37 points, only 11 goals in 37 games, that is a letdown for a guy who has played for the Team USA development team and played very well. Go look at James Hagen's playing top 6 minutes for Team USA national team, development team. And you'll be like, yeah, give me this guy at number 5. So, yeah, he had a down year with Boston College. But it makes for a very fun draft, and so I can't wait for that. We'll see what the Preds do. Let's move on to our next topic, which is – first, I want to get into something that Trotz said real quick. I forgot to bring this up. It doesn't have to be a full segment, but I do want to get your thoughts, Max.
Okay.
Trotz basically – this is also from his media availability today. He said there's nothing to do about the Marchessault trade rumors.
Yep,
he's not going anywhere. So basically that was that clickbait? Was that just like, I mean, we all kind of got into it.
We've seen rumors, so I don't think there's like absolutely nothing to it, because we've seen some fairly reputable guys talk about it. My thought is, like, I think Trotz is probably trying to say, well, like basically what everyone else has been saying, look, we're not interested in moving unless we get a good package. I think
that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had the guy for 1 year. You went out and did what you did. Now you got – I mean, a lot of that got – I think a lot of those rumors gained steam because of how Marchessault was so critical of the team's playing style. I think that's why that gained so much steam.
It's possible.
Which is fair. I mean, I appreciate that Marchessault was so honest about it and unfiltered. Like that's what I want to see out of these players. I want them to address what was the most disappointing season in Nashville Predators history. There's not it is. There's no, I mean, I've literally went back and looked at every season this franchise has ever had, and they've had some bad seasons. They've had some awful first round exits. They've had some the lockout year, they were really awful. But this was by far the most disappointing year this franchise has ever had when you look at the preseason expectations. It's not even close. So I appreciate a guy like Marchessault saying, hey, I didn't sign up for this. When I came up, now, could he have played better? Sure. But, like, I didn't sign up for this. So I think that's where all those rumors gain steam. But, again, political talk from Barry Trotz. He's not going to admit it, even if he was, because whatever's happened now, you know, like, he knows that Marchessault's here to stay. So with the no trade clause that Marchessault had, he had to approve where he was going to go. So it just, I mean, we're going to run it back. I hate to tell y'all, but this team's running it back.
It's certainly for trading one of the guys who signed last offseason, it's certainly a long shot at best.
So let's talk about Erik Haula. Does that give you more confirmation that this team is running it back, that they trade for a player like Erik Haula?
I don't even know. I don't know what really the motive is with the move. Like you're crowding the bottom six. I honestly want to see more happen before, because I'm kind of just like, I'm kind of confused by what they're trying to do with it.
That's a good way to put it. Crowding the bottom six. That's a really good way to put it, Max. I feel like, well, you're waiting to see. It tells me that Trotz doesn't have a lot of faith in his current prospect pool right now. That's what it tells me. Because another quote that was shared by Brooks Bratton regarding Barry Trotz's comments today is, let me find it so I don't get the quote wrong, but it really stood out to me. Let me find it. But basically what he was saying is, here it is right here. Preds GM Barry Trotz says players like Joakim Kimmel and Reed Schaefer are among the players who will likely be call-ups for Milwaukee this season when needed. Trotz says potential recalls will not need waivers the way Nashville's roster is constructed. So that's kind of odd to me, because you say crowded bottom six, Max, so Joakim Kimmel, only when you need him is when we're going to call him up. So, and Reed Schaefer, he's kind of on the fringe. We don't know yet about him, but we've all thought that Joakim Kimmel was like the next guy up, right? And maybe he is, but he's not going to be in the starting lineup the way that quote reads.
Yeah.
Not to start the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't. We'll have to see more pan out. I don't know what really the motive is.
I mean, Joakim Kimmel was a recent first-round draft pick, and he actually made his NHL debut this year. And I don't think he looked that bad considering the circumstances around him. He had some shots on goal. I mean,
he only played 2 games, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I liked his skating confidence. I watched both those games very closely, and I watched him very closely during those games in particular, because there wasn't a lot to really get excited about at that time of the year watching this team. So Joakim Kimmel was a player that I was like, okay, I'll stay up late and watch this team to watch him play. And I liked what I saw. I thought he looked confident. He looked good out there. So I understand where the fans are coming from here. It's like, it's not that I dislike Erik Haula. I mean, I think he can do some good things for the locker room, but you hit it perfectly when you said crowd the bottom six. I think that's a good way to put it. So we'll see how this goes. Erik Haula, if I'm not mistaken, is only got 1 year left on the deal that they're trading for. Let me make sure that's right. But
that's another aspect of it. Maybe, I mean, this might be overthinking it, but maybe that you could use him as trade deadline bait and get another asset in return. Because
at 34 years old, at 34, what trade bait? What's he really going to do for this team?
I mean, I would agree, but I mean, we've seen GMs overpay. Like, people were thinking that I even saw some articles that people thought Michael McCarron can get a 2nd-round pick. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's possible, then Erik Haula could get a top 100 pick potentially.
So where do we think Erik Haula fits into the lineup to start the season? Yeah, but like whose spot does he take? I mean, when we look at the lineup, there is kind of an open spot for him, because the way the season rounded out, you did have a lot of rotational players going on that wing spot in the bottom six. So there is kind of an open door for him to just kind of seamlessly slide in there. I will say that. It's not like there's not a clear player that he's stealing the spot from, is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because Matthew Wood was even in there. I kind of fully suspect that the fourth line is going to remain mostly unchanged with Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and a player to be named. Who knows? Maybe it's Erik Haula. Maybe, I don't know. But I could see Erik Haula being on that line with Cole Smith and Michael McCarron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your tone setter line. And that would be a really tone setter line, just in terms of all three of those dudes are going to bring the freaking heat. They're going to bring the muscle. They're probably not going to generate a ton of offense, but they're going to – you get where I'm coming from there, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, just kind of be that gritty fourth line.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's Erik Haula's deal there. $3.15 million cap hit. You've got one more year left. UFA in 2026. 34 years old. Only had 11 goals and 10 assists. 11 goals and 10 assists this past season. And 69 games played. You go back and look at his previous years, most recently. 3 years with the Devils. 40, but look at his decline. It's very clear. He's gone from 44 points to 41 points to 35 points to 21 points. So a lot of people are looking at this as a great trade for the Devils because they just dumped some salary for a 21-point player. So once again, Trotz looks like an idiot. Maybe he'll be smart in the end, but that's when you look at that. Let me zoom in. Look at that, Max. You just relieved a salary cap dump for the Devils for a 21-point player.
Yeah,
who is 34 years old.
Again, confused, and you even gave a draft pick to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Other than Trotz is waving the white flag and saying, "Yeah, we're going to suck next year." But even that would be even worse if he feels that way. Because if you feel that way, let the young guys play. But Trotz has always said that he's very protective of the young players. Yeah. Like he doesn't want to wreck their confidence and he doesn't want to rush them in too soon. So he likes to have these veterans who kind of protect them. It's all weird. Again, I'm going to circle back. I could be totally wrong. Maybe there will be a quote that comes out from Barry Trotz or someone will tell me I'm wrong. But I think in his heart of hearts, Barry Trotz does not like his current prospect pool.
Certainly, yeah, it's certainly possible. Yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you. Yeah, again, that could be why you make this move. I'm just confused by the move.
A rebuilding team that likes their prospect pool would not trade for Erik Haula. Full stop.
Right.
All right, let's say hi to Saskatoon Tiger here. Hi, guys. Old watcher and listener of the show. We really appreciate you. Please, not Hagens. Please, no more undersized players.
Interesting.
Love the deferring opinion, Saskatoon Tiger. I appreciate that. And if you are still listening or watching on YouTube, give us your preferred 5th overall pick, Saskatoon Tiger. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for the comment. Let's jump into Luke Evangelista real quick here and talk about more of, not so much that he's an RFA. We fully expect him to get traded. It is very normal for these things to drag out. It's way more complicated when they're a restricted free agent over unrestricted free agent. There has to be a team out there who really wants Luke Evangelista to offer sheet him. And then the Predators would have a chance to match that offer, all of that stuff. So it's very, very unlikely that the Predators lose Luke Evangelista. So with that said, with the assumption that he is going to be here next season, I am beating the drum that, yeah, of course we need these aging veterans to play more like the players they were before Nashville signed up for them last offseason. But Luke Evangelista, if we really want to get out of the dark ages quickly and not spend a lot of time here, Luke Evangelista has got to be one of our saviors. And I see so much potential in him in terms of being a power play specialist and also being a a guy who really piles up the assist, pushes the offense. Not necessarily a speed demon, but definitely a high offense IQ guy who can play on the wing and almost play like a center, even though he's not a center, and be a 20 to 30 goal scorer as a lock. Closer to 30 goals would be preferable. Kind of like a Craig Smith used to be. Craig Smith was one of those guys that you could just count on that guy to be a role player, to be a 20 to 30 goal scorer, score the clutch goals when you need him, contribute on the power play. Yes, Luke Evangelista has to bulk up a little bit, but I think that he is his most clear role for me this season is playing on a line, unless there's some changes in free agency. I don't see any other options other than Svechkov and Stamkos on the second line.
With Evangelista?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's probably most. I mean, he did play well for a decent bit last year with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly. So maybe they tried.
So then you would put Marchessault on the second line.
Potentially.
I mean, that's an option. And I think that I would be totally okay with that.
I would too. I would like that.
Because I think Evangelista is your future.
Yeah.
Or at least you got to see if he's your future. You got to give him that chance. You got to take the kid gloves off. You got to take off the water wings and let him swim and let him see what he does. And I still don't think we've fully seen Evangelista. I think this is his year where he has to prove it. And
he has to have a good year this year. He has to.
Without excuses being made for him.
Yeah.
He's got to show it. Because every player can have excuses. It's a team sport. But so I'd be okay with that, honestly. You put a Marchessault on the second line with Stamkos and Svechkov, that means Svechkov gets to play with two veterans. You kind of just gave me a really good I didn't really think about that really simple switch of I think you're on to something here.
No, I mean it's more so that I just like what I saw out of Forsberg, O'Reilly, Evangelista.
Well, that's kind of going to be the decision to be made in training camp is Evangelista ready to be on those top line minutes? So let's see. But again, we got it. What do you think a contract looks like for Evangelista? What would you be willing to pay him in these negotiations?
I mean, it's kind of a tricky one. I would say somewhere around $2 to $3 million.
I would definitely give him.
Per year.
I would be okay. So you got $14 million in cap space right now. You got more than enough money to re-sign him. So I don't think money should be a total issue. I think term might be a little bit of an issue right now. I think I could see that being the thing that might be having to be haggled with right now if there's negotiating going on. Because you look at a player like Evangelista, he's coming out of his ELC. This is going to be his first standard contract in the NHL. How many years do you want to invest into him? I think it's between 2 and 3 years is what they're arguing over, maybe.
Yeah.
Which seems very minor. I would be willing to give him a very straightforward, simple, easy to digest 3x3.
I would do that.
3 years, $3 million. I think term should be very important to a player like Luke Evangelista in his camp. You give me the term, you show that you're kind of invested in me. You give me $3 million a year, which really is not that much with the cap growing. But you're giving me those 3 years to show that you believe in me. I'm gonna show out. I'll prove it. And then by the time that 3 years is up, ideally, Evangelista has turned into a dynamic top 6 player that you can't deny. That's when he gets his big boy contract.
Yeah,
that's ideal.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think 3x3 is very fair for both sides, and so let's see what happens there. Let's round out episode 270. First of all, as you notice, Hockey Podcast Network is still our crew. We're still on the Hockey Podcast Network, but we are not with DraftKings currently. That's why there's no DraftKings read tonight. We don't currently have a sponsor right now. But if you're listening and you would like to think about sponsoring on our podcast and you have a tie, you're in the Nashville area or whatnot, DM the podcast or hit us up through the comments or through DMs or whatever. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with us, and we'd love to bring you on as a sponsor of Catfish and Ice. And then, of course, the Hockey Podcast Network is also working on new sponsors, including hopefully getting a new deal with DraftKings. But that's why there's no ad reads tonight. We are adless tonight, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, thank God I don't have to listen to Chad read.
Right.
I don't have to listen to Chad read all those phone numbers and disclaimers. But yeah, so let's get on to the new bullies on the block to round out this episode, and that is the Florida Panthers. Max, what surprised you most about the Stanley Cup final in terms of what the Panthers did, or was it just such a close series to call that honestly it doesn't surprise you that much?
I shouldn't be too surprised because the Panthers are a really, really great team, and I was really buying into how the Oilers were playing. Like I did mention in the last podcast, I didn't think they were a better team on paper, but they were playing such good hockey. The one thing that blew my mind is everything about the Oilers that I said, how they were minimizing mistakes, playing discipline, and of course they still showed resiliency coming back, but pretty much a lot of the good things related to their discipline and not making mistakes. That was Florida. Florida capitalized on every mistake, and they were the disciplined team. Edmonton screwed up a lot, and granted, a lot of that was just a talent discrepancy because obviously, Edmonton had nowhere near the depth to keep with Florida. But man, I mean, Florida, and I think you hit it on the nail in the last episode. Florida, their depth just wore them down.
And that's really what it comes down to in a 7-game series is depth, and their depth is ridiculous, man. It's almost not fair, but you have to tip your cap to their front office that they've done what they've done. And Max, you wrote a really good article on Predlines.com talking about how the Predators can take a page from what the Panthers have done.
So strategic in every move they make. And it's Bill Zito is by the way, he's built this team as an unconventional GM, but he's so smart about every move. He's so calculated in every move he makes. He's like I said, the biggest thing is he's not just going and saying, "Oh, this guy is good. Let's sign him. He's available." No, every move has a purpose behind it. Every single one. And
also, I mean, the Matthew Tkachuk trade. I mean,
oh yeah,
the Brad Marchand trade. I mean, it's just it's crazy the moves he pulled off, and then. But also, the goalie dilemma bit the Oilers back in the head again. In the place that the sun don't shine. I mean,
Skinner was hot and cold, and they got him cold in that final.
Exactly. So he was just and that was one of those things too. But I will say that I was wrong in the fact that I thought that Stuart Skinner was going to doom the Oilers against the Stars, but Stuart Skinner held it together long enough and he played brilliantly in some of those games against the Stars. So I was wrong there, but eventually it did come to bear that once again, the Oilers are bitten by not having that completely trustworthy goalie. But I will say also that goalies are fickle like that. Just look at the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
Just look at Jake Ottinger. I mean, look at what happened there with that fallout. And Pete DeBoer went to war with his franchise goalie, and then Pete DeBoer gets fired. Yeah. It's goalies are fickle like that. So even if you think you have a franchise goalie, it doesn't mean that they're going to show up in the playoffs.
I even thought, in fairness, not saying he played well at all. I did think a lot of the goals that Skinner gave up, he really didn't have much of a chance on, except I will say the one goal he gave up, the last goal that he did give up in that series, that was what was he doing there?
And then
just good there. What are you doing, buddy?
But then you had all this all this skepticism throughout the series of, is Calvin Pickard going to start? And because he had good numbers in his few amount of starts,
Yeah.
but he's nowhere near a household name. So it's like the goalie drama. I compare it to like football with quarterbacks. Like whenever you have that kind of drama going on in your goalie room, it's not the kind of drama you want to have when you're trying to go on a deep playoff run. Just like you don't want your starting quarterback's job to be in jeopardy to that same degree. So that's kind of what the Oilers went through. I've heard rumors that the Oilers are trying to get Gibson.
They should.
That would be so smart of them.
They need to do that.
I mean, look, Gibson is another guy who can be streaky, but the dude has been in this league for so long, and I would trust John Gibson in a playoff run for a Connor McDavid-led Oilers any day of the week. And the Oilers are really up against a wall right now because they still don't know what's going to happen with Connor McDavid. I've seen that if he were to go somewhere else, we're talking 14 to 15 million AAV. I mean, the contract would just be out of this world. Like we can't even wrap our heads around it if he were to sign somewhere else. And I've seen it could be a rumor. I can't remember which of the big time NHL accounts shared it, but it was a reputable one. But I don't want to say which one because I can't remember. I wish I would have retweeted it. But they were kind of like speculating that the Stars would be one of the teams that there's a very, very, let's put it this way. There's a very, very, very short list of teams that Connor McDavid would leave the Oilers for. And the Stars were one of those teams.
Yeah, ultimately, I think he resigns in Edmonton.
I think so too. I think his heart's there. I think his heart's there. I think
he's there as well.
I think he desperately wants to bring a Stanley Cup to that franchise. That would really his legacy is already so great, but until he gets that Stanley Cup, he's going to be hoodwinked.
Yeah.
And he can really just, that's what I was saying. Like, I didn't really have a dog in the fight in this Stanley Cup. I really didn't. I just wanted to see a good series. It was cool to see a rematch. And even though, I'm kind of I love seeing the Canadian curse in a way. It's kind of fun to watch. But that's more just tied to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I don't want to create all the Canada teams equally. It's really just I love seeing the Toronto Maple Leafs just suffer.
Yeah,
that's just me. But, and also the Canucks have a bad taste in my mouth too. For obvious reasons as a Preds fan. But, the Oilers, I just respect the respect that's deserved for Connor McDavid. And I want to see him get his cup. He deserves it. Yes. The dude is such an incredible talent. When you watch him, you're so lucky to watch him. And I appreciate how much Connor McDavid gives to the game. The dude cares. The dude, he's not a diva. And I kind of want to see him remain loyal to Edmonton so he can eventually lift that cup for that fan base. I think it would be a little watered down and tainted if he jumps ship and goes to another franchise, joins a bunch of superstars, and I'll still be happy for him. He deserves it. But if he goes to another franchise and wins a cup immediately, joining a bunch of other superstars, he's going to get the LeBron treatment in a way.
Kind of.
So I know it's not the exact comparison. I'm just saying, there's something special to say that a guy, especially the best player in the world, to stick through all of the hard times, and eventually he does break through and win the cup for that franchise that he stays with. Yeah. Doesn't leave. You see it in sports too much now where superstars just jump ship. It happens in every sport now. They jump ship. They go to the next team. It would be really cool to see Connor McDavid stick it out with the Oilers and eventually win. And even though I'm not an Oilers fan, I will be very, very happy for that franchise and those fans and that player, the GOAT, when he does eventually win a cup for that franchise. So that's how we're going to end. But the Panthers are definitely the bullies on the block at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And as Max said, I agree with him. They're going to be back next year. Three-peat, I'm not going to go that far. Until free agency happens, I'm not going to say anything about predictions. Right. That's just pointless. Right. But I'm just saying they're in a good position where they might lose a player or two. Ekblad looks like a player they might lose, but they're in a good position where they're still going to be stacked next year. So they'll be back, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it after free agency. Let's do that. But until then, Max, it's been a great episode. Appreciate you, brother. This has been episode 270 of Catfish on Ice. And our next episode, we will recap the entire NHL draft by the Predators and working on getting some guests on here as well. Would love to get an NHL draft scout or expert on here. If you watch on YouTube or you're watching any of our clips on X or on Facebook, DM the show. If you have a love for hockey and you want to possibly inquire about being a guest on Catfish on Ice, let us know. Until then, we're signing off. It's been Catfish on Ice, episode 270, part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.